literary as Feck in it, and this is a joint decision.
Yes.
It's neither my choice, it's neither Nick's choice. This is in the lap of the gods.
Yeah.
Talking Peter McCurtin's Mafiosa books last time. And then we thought, well, seeing as some of his other books are cheap as chips, Kindles, why don't we stay on the McCurtin bandwagon and try out some of his Westerns? Because I don't think we've spoken any Westerns on this show. I mean, you keep shoehorning in spaghetti Western and Thomas Millian references to everything.
Yes.
But I haven't actually talked about any Western.
Actually read a Western book. I haven't actually read that. I've seen far more Western films than I've ever read Western novels. I would imagine, like I've read almost none. Virtually none. I think I read a couple of Zane Grey books way back in the day when I was mostly interested in. He wrote a couple of books where he really shit on the Wobblies, the IWW.
Was that right? Was Zane Grey not a fan of?
He was not a fellow traveler, my friend.
Oh, okay. This land is not my land and your land, and
no. So I was interested because that was back in my days of being interested in anything that was anarchist affiliated or adjacent. So
was he deeply conservative, or what was his problem?
I think so. I think so.
Interesting.
But I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong if you know more about Zane Grey's politics, but I just know that he had written a book that was very, very anti-IWW that I read.
It turned out he was actually a communist infiltrator.
Could have been. All right.
His real name.
To read his books a bit more,
Yeah.
What's that?
His real name was Sergei Kolomnachov or something.
That's the one. Yep.
If you know if Zane Grey was a double,
in fact,
let us know.
Yes, if you think,
and of course, tell the authorities.
Well, yes, because they'll want to track down Zane Grey wherever he is today
for spreading all that disinformation about the Old West. That favored Union.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's no better way to bring the American empire to its knees than by besmirching its Old West.
That's right.
So speaking of which, I guess we're going to do that right now.
Yes. So
these books are definitely a little more in that kind of like jaded early 70s, post spaghetti Western. There we go. Surprisingly, we're back there already. This is not your granddad's Old West.
No, I think this. I think this fits. I technically I don't know if it fits because I think they were from U.S. publisher, but in tone at least they fit into the Piccadilly Westerns, right? Which were these little cluster of authors in the UK who wrote a whole bunch of much more violent and edgy than usual Westerns that were definitely inspired by the popularity of the spaghetti Western film. So
it's funny you should mention that.
Yeah.
Clive, because the version that I bought is published by Piccadilly Publishing.
Yes, I think so. Me too, the Kindle. But obviously their remit is slightly wider than just specifically who were British authors writing stuff for British publishers. But yeah, it definitely fits in that. I mean, there were actually quite a bunch of these series right in the wake of and often using Clint Eastwood's image, also a lookalike on the cover, or a Charles Bronson lookalike, or actually James Coburn seems to have been
I think I showed you my one that still I think is one of the weirdest ones because it's such a specific this John Reese's They Don't Shoot Cowards, which is very clearly Jean-Louis Trintignant.
It's either him or Rhys Ifans, isn't it?
One or the other, but I'm pretty sure that's That's silence.
Yeah. And
Might
could
not
that,
might
could
have
that
the
even
metal
be a
hand there.
metal hand? Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. Anyway,
Is that any good?
No, I haven't read it.
Okay. You just bought
Mostly bought it for the cover.
Right. Did you find that in a secondhand bookstore?
Did. Yes. I know actually better than that. I found it in somebody's garage at the 70-mile yard sale, whatever it's called here on the island, where I do it once a year. Actually, we just missed sadly this year's. But yeah, normally I drive around the island. You just follow various yard sales and
it's a yard sale. I was going to say, don't let Nick in your garage. He'll steal your books. It was for sale.
Yes, and I bought a bunch. That's where I pick up a lot of my trash reading for like $1 a book or less.
Right. Yeah, it's always better if you find it in the wild for a low price.
I fucking should. Somebody had a massive box.
The dopamine rush is so much bigger, then, isn't it?
Yeah. No, somebody had a massive box of the Target Doctor Who novelizations. I don't know why I didn't just be like, yep, I'll have them all, but I didn't for some reason. Anyway, back to the Old West.
I think the only one I've still got knocking around here, it must have just survived, and I found it sitting all by itself in my parents' attic. Was I think I still have a Target of Doctor Who and the Sea Devils.
Ooh, is it a Terrence Dicks? I mean, he did the best novelizations of the.
Is it sometimes or Malcolm Hulk? Maybe I can't.
Yeah, I mean, so they did novelize their own in some cases. Yeah, Dicks and him did their own, but then they went back and filled in some of the gaps from the earlier ones that they didn't write themselves. Again, I don't know why we're talking about Doctor Who.
Because we should be talking CARMODY.
Yes, is that how you say his name? I was pronouncing it CARMODY in my head, but
don't know.
But I guess it could be.
You mean it's a CARMODY in your head? You don't actually know what I'm singing now.
I have no idea what you're singing, Clive.
It's supposed to be Buzzcock's Harmony in my head, but
okay, yes.
But it probably sounded nothing like it. Yeah.
But I was never a particularly big fan of the Buzzcocks, to be honest. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah, no.
No. I wonder if there's a Buzzcocks doc.
They weren't quite mean enough sounding for me, I don't think. They did.
You young man, go back to school.
Okay, yeah, I shall. Okay.
No, Buzzcocks are definitely up there. They're definitely up there. Anyway, again, not
nothing to do with that. Are we going to talk about these books then, Clive?
Why? No, let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Viewers, write in and guess what we thought of the CARMODY books.
Yes.
And the winner.
Stamped self-addressed envelope, please.
Yes.
Address it to Literary Aspect.
Yes.
Care of
the
Clive.
Web. And it'll get you. And you will win. The winner will have a bag of breadcrumbs dipped in creosote. Not the breadcrumbs, the bag outside. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think you'll all agree that's worth winning. But anyway, just to give you the clues.
Yes.
Yeah. So we talked books 1 and 6, right? And the titles escape me. Do you remember?
Slavers, I believe, is the first book.
One, yes.
And something about wires.
Yeah.
Screaming on the Wire.
Screaming on the Wire is number 6, and we chose that one just because we'd read that it was apparently one of the better ones in the series, right? But obviously we did the first one because it's the first one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, CARMODY is he's a drifter with a fast trigger hand, and I mean, I can't say there's nothing.
There's not much to him. Really?
Nothing really distinguishes him from a bunch of other Western characters, right?
No. Okay. Which in a weird way, I was all right with that. And I was all right with the fact that the first book. One of the things that I remember actually disappointing me, because I read the Parker books out of order. So I had read a bunch of the Outfit I'd read, and I'd read several later, and then I went back, and read the first one, and I was like, oh, this is weird. Like the character is not the same. He's not as flat, and as like there's a bit too much emotion in this book, and it was overlong, and there was a lot of backstory, and I was like, this is not the fucking like cardboard cutout Parker that I really like. And I found like in this book, it was like this could have been, this first book could have been book 7, and I wouldn't have known, because there's nothing, there's no, he's just like, here he is, he's 2-dimensional, and he's gonna have an adventure,
right?
And I'm fine with that.
Yes,
I don't need to know where he's from, who his parents were. He seems to always bump into somebody he kind of knows.
Yeah, I would say CARMODY is even. I mean, Parker is so. He's like deliberately stoic to a fault that it becomes almost a fully rounded character. I would argue as CARMODY's even less is less of a character than Parker is, really, right?
Right.
And I would imagine, I don't know, I haven't read the whole series, but I would imagine he might even change, because he doesn't have a strong character. I wouldn't be surprised if he's quite different from
book to book, depending on the situation. Yeah.
He's just, he's not he's an anti-hero.
He's a function of the plot.
Yeah, he's not, going out of his way to be heroic, but at the same time, he'll also kind of.
Well, he'll shoot a horse. If that horse is wounded, he'll shoot that horse.
Yes.
He doesn't like to see a horse suffer, this man.
No, that comes up quite a lot.
Yes.
So, yeah, both these books, very swift reads. I mean, I don't know if it even took me 2 hours to read.
No.
I mean, they were pretty.
I breezed through these like. I'm always happy when I turn a page and the book goes up by 1%. I'm like, oh, this book is 100 pages long. That's nice. So the first book, it kind of has a little bit of a social conscience. This one more so than the second one we read, which is the 6th book. But the first one is about kind of a resurgence of slavery somewhere in the South, where local military is in like cahoots with like ranch owners. Basically, they've been raiding indigenous communities. I think mostly Zuni people. It's New Mexico, right? Which is funny actually, because I realize since like when reading these things, I'm like, oh, wait a second. I've spent time in places that are like very close to where this book is set, because I've been down into the south of Arizona and into the southeast of Arizona, because I've been to Tombstone, right? Which is, it's a weird place to be. They've still got like the graveyard there, and I don't know how much of it's like stagey bullshit set up, or if it's actually legitimately, but it's got lots of really great racist grave markers. When you go to Tombstone, you're like, is that? And if that's a recreation, why did they choose to do this?
Racist in what way? I'm not quite sure I follow you.
Yeah, I don't know that I want to like go into it.
I mean, towards which group of people? Then let's start.
Well, like the one that springs to mind was like a gravestone, like a wooden gravestone thing that said like to Chinese, but pick a less.
Okay, I see.
Pleasant term.
Okay.
Pick a more racist term. Yeah, like that kind of thing.
Right. Oh, okay, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so when I was reading the book, I started to suddenly be like, oh yeah, I actually have some stuff to stick this to, because it's very, it's very Spartanly written. There's not a lot of like describing the vistas or whatever, right?
Although there's one part of the book I enjoyed quite a bit actually, where they do go on a little bit of a odyssey, where they travel to the Zuni village, and it turns out to be on this
plateau almost, right?
A mesa, right? A mesa. I quite like that. That gave a real sense of place, I thought.
Yes, and I've actually been to one of those places. So when I went down to Tombstone, we also on that trip, I believe, we went up into a kind of, but it was like a historical. It was like an old. There wasn't like a an existing Zuni community, but it was an old,
right,
like, archaeological site. But it was cool.
Well, there weren't any of those dolls that chase Karen Black around.
No, strangely enough, there were not.
Right. They were Zuni
so,
dolls, right? That's a Zuni doll, if I remember.
I think they were, yes. So basically, CARMODY comes to town, and he meets his old friend who's like put on a few pounds and is now he became he was a jailhouse lawyer, right? He got thrown into jail, spent 5 years there, studied up the law books, has come out, and now he's like the champion of the local indigenous man and Mexican.
Basically, right? I'm imagining either Slim Pickens.
Yep.
Or what's his face? Nowadays you might cast the Irish guy.
Call Meany?
Not that one. The other one.
Okay.
There's two Irish people, as you know. The general, the guard.
Oh yes, yes, definitely. With kind of a badly buttoned up shirt, and kind
exactly.
of belly kind of hanging over his belt. Yes. Gleason,
Brendan Gleason. There we go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He would imagine him.
Yeah, with a nice little kind of handlebar mustache or something. But anyway, so he so basically he's trying to fight back because the local authorities are abusing and they're enslaving indigenous people, and he's going to get the government involved because he's got connections in Washington, and basically the local slave runners or whatever have decided that this is not going to happen. So, and then you've got this kind of old sheriffy fellow who's kind of in the middle of it all, who's like, I don't want no trouble in my town, and he's and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean it's got a social conscience to a point, but then you also need some scenes of people being shot in the face and stuff like that, right, to get the punters in. So it's that mix, isn't it, of having something, having enough of a there's an underdog element, so that you side with our kind of heroic element, right? But it's not true. I mean, it's weird in that way, where it's in some ways quite cartoonish, but then in other ways there's something vaguely authentic about these books. Oddly enough, I thought it's a weird mix of cartoonish and written to a certain style, a formula, but at the same time I feel as if Peter McCurtin might have actually done his homework, and he actually knew a little bit about the background, just so he could, in a way, do whatever he likes. Without the fear of going too far off and
making it seem inauthentic. No, it does.
I might be talking bollocks, but that's how it seems to me instinctively, that it was like that mixture. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think too, there is like a huge, I don't remember if he's a Zuni as well, or if he's just an Apache, but there's like a big what I mean, I don't know. Okay. I was just thinking, I would hear these terms when I lived on the reserve, and people would say things that obviously I can't say, right? But occasionally some of them would call.
You're among friends, Nick.
Yes, right. The internet, yes, all of those people out there, yes.
They don't judge you on here. No. I've never heard of anyone getting on trouble on the internet.
You know what? I think I'll just leave it alone. We'll just leave it as one of those funny things that folks could say that I can't say. But anyway, he's a big man. He's a big, scary guy, and he's really angry. And he accompanies CARMODY on that raid where they do a lot of awesome dynamiting of slavers. I mean, as I said, it was a breezy, fun read. The bad guys were loathsome. The good guys were kind of
not good. So you get behind them, right? That's the thing. Yeah. You like them because they're
not slavers.
basically. Yeah.
But yeah, Carmody's he's kind of nicely a bit of an asshole in an enjoyable way. And yeah, I mean, I found it a fun read.
Yeah, it's not exceptional, but
No.
yeah, it was. I mean, I stuck with it to the end. I mean, actually, there was a point about a third through where if I hadn't have been reading for this, I might have given up. Not because I was hating it, but it was just like, okay, I've got to measure this, and there's
Right.
books like it, which is kind of right. But and I'm glad I powered through it. I think might have been a slight slump there.
Right.
So, number 6, Screaming on the Wire. I've no idea what happened to CARMODY in the interim.
No, I don't feel like it mattered much.
No, and I'll say up front as well, like, as much as I kind of rather enjoyed these two to some extent, I think I'm probably with CARMODY.
Yep.
I might pick up other McCurtin books in different series. Just to give a series a go. He seems like a safe pair, because I think that's the thing. We talked about this a little bit before, and just trying to flesh this out because we don't really have that much to say about CARMODY. But it's interesting. I think the more you get into reading kind of the trashier end of paperback originals, it at first it can be quite daunting because there's just so much of it, and you have no idea where to start, right? And series, especially long series, can be really variable, right? I mean, again, I'm not that well versed in. I've read around, obviously, a certain amount of trashiness. The only series that I can think of that I've read quite a few of, so I can, I have an experience of this, is the Nick Carter Killmaster series.
Okay, right.
Which I have to admit, there's something about them. I think I just got started on them because I think my dad had one, had a copy of one in the attic, another attic find, The Living Death, and it had like one of those photo covers, with like some dude slumped in a chair and who's just been given some kind of injection by a sexy blonde in a halter top or something. So I was like, oh, and I've read a few of them over there, and the quality of them is just all over the place.
Right.
Never quite know. So it's a good. So you can't necessarily recommend this series or that series, or
it's like
an in,
it's
right?
like discography of a band that's got 8 albums. I mean, you don't start your Ramones collection with Pleasant Dreams, don't, you know what I mean? Like there's places, you kind of need to go to the people who will be like, yeah, no, this is the whatever, the AC/DC album you probably need to listen to first before you get to fucking Ballbreaker or whatever shit is going on, and
Yeah, or jump in and find out for yourself as well, right?
Sure.
You don't get, as long as you've got the stamina for it and you don't get dissuaded. So yeah, the reason I meant it. So yeah, you learn, I think, at a certain point to recognize certain names, right? Although sometimes you have to know that that's the actual person hiding behind the house name or something like that. So it's a bit of a it's a head scratcher, but the more you get into it,
it's like a minefield if the mines were really boring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, nothing happened when I stepped on that one. Yeah, that's actually quite a Or you step on it and you get like a quote from Phil Collins or something.
Right.
Oh no, one of those Bono ones from the documentaries. Like
exactly.
You step on a mine and it says something like, well, actually, the Downliners sector, a very important band. Yeah. So
okay.
Anyway, so it's good. It's good when you find. So again, Peter McCurtin read 4 books now. I'm not going to say Peter McCurtin is the best author in the whole world. However, he is a safe, because these things can go very wrong, right? Some of these books are literally unreadable. I mean, just like fucking these. I mean, even if you have an endurance for a certain amount, trash still has to be well written.
Yes.
In its own way, right?
Yes.
And some things are like shockingly bad, right? Whether they just push you out of the book.
There was no editor clearly involved at all.
But they had a topless blonde bitch strangled by a Nazi gorilla on the cover. So you've already bought it and spent your money, right? So but so it's good when you find someone, for instance, another good example. I think he actually might be a better writer, but when we did whatever the fuck those rats, beach rats, no, what was the Len Simpson?
Yes. Yeah.
Jungle rats, no.
Whatever it was, yeah.
He's another one, right? Like if I'm looking into a new series, let's say, oh, here's a men's adventure, you know, the rejuvenator or the the revengerator or something like that. And I don't know, but it turns out Revengenator 12 Bloodbath in Manhattan is a Len Levinson joint or Peter McCurtin. I'm that's like, the start. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Peter McCurtin, for me at least, I don't know how you feel, he's in that category for me now. Like, I'm not necessarily going to seek him out, but
it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. It'll be readable and it'll get the job done. And if that's what you want something kind of just comfortable and
a good entry point, and then you can go poking around in that series if you so desire, right? But the the Scream on the Wire, so in this one again bumps into an old overweight friend. He has a lot of old fat friends.
He does. He does indeed, yeah.
Maybe he's a like ex CARMODY, the origin story is, he was like the founder of Weight Watchers or something.
He worked for some sort of health farm situation with like guys who founded Kellogg's.
Right. A lot of colonic irrigation in the in the origin story.
In the prequel books. Yeah. So he does bump into another fat friend who's now involved in some sort of like simmering range war, right? With another fella.
Which
they both have
spoiler alert. Like, I love the fact that it's just solved when they have a drunken shootout and they just you big fuck, come and have a drink and all is forgiven. I thought that was actually quite amusing. Because the main thing of the story is
the book is about a young psychopath, right?
Yes.
None may or may not be
Billy the Kid's brother.
May or may not be Billy the Kid's younger brother, yes.
Yeah.
Which is interesting too, because my knowledge of Billy the Kid comes entirely from like movies. Right, I actually know very little about the historical Billy the Kid, so it's like it's fucking Young Guns 2 and like Pat Garrett and Bob Dylan. That's my lens on this. But yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like in the book they make a point of saying like he doesn't sound like a cowboy. He's like a city.
Grew up in New York, right? That's the thing.
And I assume that's true of Billy the Kid then.
Yeah,
but I feel like in every movie I've ever seen him in.
I've read a couple of Billy the Kid books, and that is very much he was like the Bowery Boys or something of his day,
That's what but it's funny because then when I think of the movies I've seen, that's not something that they lean into at all. Like he doesn't have a Jimmy Cagney voice in any of the
right. Yeah. Well, no, because I suppose the majority of the story takes place in it's like Albuquerque and Santa Fe and places like that.
Yeah,
that's kind of.
So when I'm thinking of Emilio Estevez or who the fuck played him in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid? Oh, the singer, right?
It's Bob Dylan, isn't it?
No, Bob Dylan plays the troubadour. No, it's
right, okay.
what's his
I
face
remember
from
James Coburn is no, R.G. Armstrong is Pat Garrett, right?
I don't remember, but it's like Chris Christopherson.
Is Chris Christopher? I know he's in it, but does he play Billy the
I'm
Kid?
pretty sure he plays Billy the Kid, yeah. Which doesn't make any sense because he'd be too old. Because
Yeah,
Billy the Kid dies at 22,
yeah.
right?
He's more like Billy the Pensioner, isn't he?
Well, not quite at that in the 70s, but still.
Chris Christopher has always looked pretty. I just watched Cisco Pike. He's always looked kind of a bit long in the tooth. Yeah, you're quite right. It's funny. I remember the film and I remember him in it. For some reason I don't. Because it doesn't compute. And
Right.
it's James Coburn as Pat Garrett.
I think it's a Pat Garrett, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure R.G. Armstrong, who's like another Peckinpah
mainstay.
I thought he'd played Pat Garrett in something, but oh well, there we go. The memory for you. You can't trust it. Anyway, back to CARMODY number 6.
Yes, yeah. So he basically the book begins with him rescuing this younger brother of Hex, right, is what he calls himself. This younger brother of Billy the Kid, who right away we realize is a real bad one, you know. He's a young psychopath. Basically, he's looking to make a name for himself in the Wild West, and you know, a bigger name than his brother.
Right. And he reads all these paperbacks about I suppose you'd call them, I don't know what you'd call them, but
dime store westerns, right?
Yeah. And so he's very well versed, or at least he's very well versed in the legends, the tabloid version of all these various Western kind of heroes and outlaws and stuff like that, which is an interesting kind of touch that he's always got a book on the go. Right.
And very much with an eye to his own legend, right? Like he's trying to write his own history here.
It's just an interesting wrinkle, because I think normally if you were to write that character, you would assume you'd write it as he'd be illiterate. Yes, yeah. But even though he is a bit of a mouth breather when he reads, he can read, right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, he's just there to stir up trouble. And when you know he's hoping that this range war is going to explode, and that he'll get to make his name that way. And when it doesn't, he takes matters into his own hands. Yeah. And then it's up to CARMODY to be like, this guy's got to be put down. But I did like the whole thing about where he was like, he's like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of like gunning you down, right? Because that is going to help you with your whole idea of making this legend. Yeah. So he wants to have him hung by the book. Yeah. I can't even remember if that happens. Well, it doesn't happen on the page, but basically he does. He does capture him, and he walks him back on a noose. Both these books were pretty much in 1 year out the other, but I enjoyed them while the brief time I was reading them. Do you know what I mean? Right. Yeah. But I got into this really weird habit, which I do occasionally. It doesn't happen often, but because I do a lot of my reading in the bath, right? Same here. Yeah, and so I think Jennifer was like, your bath, in fact. Yeah, that's when you're not in there, I pop over. Get in. Yeah. They take that transatlantic flight. I've got plenty of miles, so right. But like do you ever read aloud? No. Trans-Pacific. Okay. Sorry? Trans-Pacific? Would that make more sense? That would make more sense, yes. Yeah. Unless you went a long way around. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, well, no, because the water's getting cold. Obviously, I'm going to choose the fast route. Right. But yeah, no, like, so every now and again, I'll feel the urge to read aloud. You mean for long, or just like a little? No, for like pages and pages and pages. Oh, interesting. I'll do it occasionally when I'm read something and I'm struck by it.
like almost like poetry or something.
You want to hear the
Yeah,
sound of
I
it.
will. I will do that. But no, I don't suddenly. I mean, is there like a trigger or a reason, or is there no rhyme and reason to it, or pattern, or?
Well, I would say generally speaking, it tends actually to be things that are written in a way that is like either stream of consciousness or highly poetic, right? That's usually the place where I'll find myself feeling the need to read aloud. Sometimes it can happen with like when I read the Cuchulainn story, right? The Táin, because it is verse. I find it easier to take in if I read it out loud.
That makes sense if you're reading. Certainly, to answer your question more fully, actually, I do read poetry aloud.
Okay.
Now, I don't read much poetry. I try to make room for it.
Me neither.
I try and make room for it in my life because I know there's good poetry out there. But yeah, I mean, when I read like, the complete William Blake or something, I did read it out aloud. So consequently, I don't really take poetry books out with me and do it on the train. I think.
Yes, because it might be slightly odd.
Chunks, like few, 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time. And I do read poetry aloud.
And also, if something
God, we sound sophisticated as fuck.
But that's our next show, sophisticated as fuck.
Yeah.
But I also find that every now and again, if a book is very heavily in dialect as well, for some reason, it will call upon me to actually read it aloud rather than,
like an Irving Welsh book or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, because sometimes I'm just not getting it on the, like, my eyes are not taking it in properly, and I have to speak it in order to get it.
Yes, that makes
but
sense.
I don't know why, but with this, because it wasn't written I felt like it wasn't written in a Westerny enough dialect that I started reading it out loud in some sort of terrible fucking like Sam Elliott attempt to like.
Nick, you've just blown our sophisticated as Feck veneer because you just used the phrase Westerny enough.
Damn it.
Which I like. I like it a lot, but it's not sophisticated as Feck.
No, it's not. It's not. But yeah, it was just a weird thing. And so then I think Jen was just sitting outside in here watching TV, and then in the bathroom, I'm like doing, I didn't know. I'm doing voices. I didn't know a single one of those town livers who stood watching, bunched together like sheep at the north end of the street. Nearly everybody there had a gun. One sickly-looking kid had a hay fork. Nothing was said till I got within 10 feet. Yeah, and I'm doing that by myself in the bathroom, and I'm thinking Jen's probably like, he's gone mad.
You do the female insect voices as well, right? When you get
obviously.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
My favorite.
Comedy.
Hey there, comedy. I'm Susan the Earwig.
Indeed. Yes, yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's just a little window onto what the fuck's wrong with me.
How often, I mean, is it like you'll never turn down the opportunity, or is it now and again, or once a year?
Yeah, it's very much now and again, and it's certain things will strike me as a feeling like they need to be read aloud.
Would you do that for like an hour, or?
I feel like I probably went for like a good, with these books, for some reason, I got into a habit, particularly the second one, of just reading long stretches of it aloud to myself in the bath.
You should do, seeing as you're doing it anyway, you should set up a recorder and do some audio books.
Right.
For the discerning,
For those folks who want to read hear my bathtub readings. Hot stuff. But yes, anyway.
A fresh career awaits.
I would say actually that a book that we will eventually get to when I finish reading it. But the what is it called? It's the one about the Rosenbergs.
Oh, the public burning.
Yeah, but I would say sections of that actually also, because it's very stream of consciousness and very kind of like, it is very poetic. I feel like there's parts of that I've probably read aloud as well, just for the joy of hearing the language, because there's some really nice turns of phrase.
Right, I haven't started it yet, so I'm very much looking forward. Yes, that's coming soon. Actually, maybe we should. Yeah, I think this probably, if things work out the timeline it's supposed to, say bye-bye to Nick for a little while, because he's got some real life stuff, and when he comes back,
I am just moving house. It's not like I have. There's nothing sketchy or untoward going on. I'm not going into. I'm not going to jail for a few weeks or anything like that. It's all good.
He is going to jail.
Fuck.
I did warn him. Those kids is going to talk one day. And so anyway, and hopefully, because it'll be weird otherwise, when you do return, if you have exactly the same backdrop, that would be really strange. And
it would be strange if I moved house. You're right. Unless I take I have like this is just something I roll up as soon as you're done.
Yeah. There's a thought. So he's doing some stuff, and he'll be away for a while, but Literary Feck will continue with some guest hosts. And then I guess when we do return, that'll probably be our first. So who will be the public learning?
Who is cuckolding me, Clive? Who are you having on to do this dance that we do so well together?
Well, Darren will be cuckolding you.
Okay, well that's fine. I've I felt his. Okay, all right.
And Gav.
Okay, perfect. So all folks that I've worked with before. This is all good. I'd be very disturbed if there was somebody I'd never seen or heard of. That would be.
Well, now the temptation is there.
Stressing. Fuck.
To do,
especially if you find somebody who somehow like fits the same general template. Like you find some sort of like Nick Light. That would be very disturbing.
I'll get Nick Nolte on.
Well,
talk whatever his favorite of the Mr. Men books is. I'm guessing Mr. Wobbly Hand. I think
that or Mr. Bump, I would imagine.
Nick Nolte is a wobbly hand kind of guy. So I get Ozzy on for that, or Michael J. Yeah. So fuck it. Why don't we just stop? Because that's about it. All we've got to say really about CARMODY, right? Is they're all right.
Yeah, they're not bad. If that's your cup of tea.
Yeah. And we'll see you in a little bit, Nick. After
good luck with the shows.
Spread my seed far and wide.
Cast it upon the wind, as the mighty Ator's father once did.
That's right. Although if you do that in a moving car, it might just hit the windscreen of the driver behind and cause an accident if it's a copious load, of course.
Yes. Well, I'm sure that your capacious nutsack would have only the most titanic of ejaculations.
Right. We've really just.
I don't know what's happened. It's really gone way off the road at this point.
Never mind.
I blame Peter McCurtin.
I blame him too. Yeah, fuck you, Pete. Or whatever his name is. We'll have something a lot more substantial next time, so maybe that'll keep us busy.
Oh wait, right? More substantial than the massive load that you plan to spray out of a moving vehicle.
Yes. See, now we're getting confused with our mixed metaphors. Right, I'm stopping this. I'm pressing the button.
Okay. Yeah, you need to.
Yeah. See you in a bit.